And it sounds strange, doesn't it? Department of Education, we're going to eliminate it, and everybody knows it's right.
You have probably heard that President Trump has signed an executive order abolishing, wiping out the Department of Education. I'm Dr. Phil with The Real Story. You probably have also heard that our children are not getting educated. So it would seem kind of counterintuitive if they're not getting educated that we would wipe out the Department of Education. It would seem like we kind of need that if our kids aren't even getting educated. It's counterintuitive, right? But that's only half of a sentence. We're wiping out the Department of Education, but we're not just wiping it out, we're replacing it with state-run departments of education. The idea being that, hey, they're closer to their state, they're seeing who the kids are in the jurisdiction, they know what they need, they know what their economy is, they know what the values are, they know what's happening with those children, so they're in a better position to run the education department there. Now, if you listen to legacy media, they've got some different ideas about this. They think, oh my God, don't shut down the Department of Education. The coverage has been all over the charts.
Donald Trump just basically had a photo op today. He didn't dismantle the Department of Education. It has to be done by an act of Congress.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry,
no,
I'm
do
really
not
angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York.
I would like to have an NBA or NFL of teachers, the most extraordinary teachers, teach the entire country.
Who would run that? The education department?
Here's the real story, in my opinion. You can draw your own conclusions. 50% of the solution to any problem lies in defining the problem. So what is the problem? Well, this year's nation's report card from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, we didn't do very well. I would say that as a nation, we got a big fat F. 40% of fourth graders can barely read. I mean, they're below basic reading levels. A third of eighth graders are below basic reading levels. Now think about what I just said. A big group of fourth and eighth graders, that's the classes they checked, can't read at the most basic level. Math, 23% of fourth graders are below basic levels, 39% of eighth graders are below basic levels in math, and those fourth graders were in kindergarten with COVID hit. So trends in international mathematics and science, not good. Fourth graders in 2023 were worse off than 2021. Eighth graders in 2023 worse off than in 2019. So that means things are trending badly. So when we talk about shutting down the Department of Education, think about this. If this was truly a merit-based system, if we were determining whether they were going to keep their jobs or not, whether that was going to stay in business or not, and that was based on, hey, I don't know, let's do something crazy. Are they doing their job? It's a Department of Education, so that means they're charged with educating the nation's children. So, I don't know, let's see if they're doing their job. How about no, they're not doing their job at all. So what do they say about it? What do they say about the nation's report card? Well, they said, quote, not only did most students not recover from pandemic-related learning loss, but those students who were the most behind and needed the most support have fallen even further behind. So, what did Department of Education do? Well, it seems they listened to the teachers union. In 2020, the AFT president, Randy Weingarten, called reopening schools as reckless, callous, and cruel. That was a quote. Threatened to strike. Two of the largest teachers unions, NEA and AFT, they minimized or eliminate testing teacher performance. So not only is the Department of Education not doing their job, they want to eliminate measuring whether teachers are doing their job. So let's not check and see if the $241 billion that the DOE has for a budget is getting a return. Are we, who fund that with our tax dollars, getting our money's worth? Hell no, we're not getting our money's worth. So what do the teachers' unions want to do? Well, let's just quit checking. We don't want to check. We don't want to see if the teachers are doing a good job. We don't want to see how we're doing as a nation. We're using an education model that hasn't changed since I was born in the 50s. The same model. We're not using chalkboards. Maybe now we're using whiteboards. Now maybe we're passing out iPads, but it's the same stuff on there. Have you noticed the world has changed? Maybe we need to be teaching different things. So let's look at what the money's being spent on. Between the year 2000 and 2019, administrative positions have gone up 87%. Teaching positions, those actually out there in the trenches, working directly with the children, trying to create competencies, those positions have only gone up 8.7%. So the high-priced bureaucrats gone up a 10-to-1 ratio over teachers. How about we get those high-priced bureaucrats to get off their penguin butts and get in the classrooms and do some teaching? Now, you're probably thinking, okay, look, Dr. Phil, I get it. I understand. Not doing great, but hey, my kids are grown. My kids, they learn to read. They've got jobs. They're out there. My grandkids, they've grown up. They're out of it. Why is this my problem? Well, let me tell you why you should care. Let's talk about employment. Those with poor literacy, their rate of unemployment is 2 times those that have a reasonable degree of literacy. You want to know who's paying those unemployment benefits? You are. Illiterate workers earn 30 to 42% less than those that have higher literacy. So more of them are in the poverty level. Who do you think are paying for all of those programs, food stamps, housing subsidies? You are. How about crime? Illiterate 4th graders? 2/3 of them are destined for jail or welfare. Who's paying for that? You are. High school dropouts? 3.5 times more likely to be arrested. Who pays for that incarceration? You do. 63% are likely to be incarcerated, and you're paying for it. The average price? $30,000 a year per inmate. Homelessness. If you look into the homeless population, 95% are low literacy. The cost of a homeless person, you think, well, it didn't cost anything, they're living on the street. No. $35,000 a year it costs us for somebody to be living on the street. Why? Because they may not have a house, but they've got government subsidies and they're collecting them at $35,000 a year. Who's paying for that? You're paying for that. Low literacy cost the GDP $1.4 trillion with a T, $73 billion in healthcare alone. All told, illiteracy cost $300.8 billion per year. Now, come on, guys. How is this happening? How are we letting this occur? I'll tell you how. Anytime you see somebody going on, a pattern of behavior going on, it's because somebody is either maintaining, eliciting, or allowing that to occur. Who's that someone? That's us. That someone is us. We're either eliciting, maintaining, or allowing this to go on because we're not stepping up and saying, you know what, we're spending all of this money on the Department of Education and they're not doing their job. So people say, well, okay, but wait a minute, what about special needs children? If we cut off this federal Department of Education, what about all of the money that's taking care of special needs kids? Children that have dyslexia, children that have emotional problems, children that have mental and emotional problems, those that are less equipped to handle everything because of intellectual challenges. No. That doesn't go away when the Department of Education goes away. That flows through different federal programs to those schools. That's just saber rattling when people saying, oh my God, that's going to go away. And by the way, that federal money isn't being well spent either because you don't have the specialist in there to actually help those children. That needs to be looked at, and they need to do a better job of helping those special needs children. $240-something billion a year, and children are failing right and left. And you know what? It costs millions of years of life lost for this generation. Why? Why do you say million years life lost? Because if you have a poor education, you get poorer employment. These are blue-collar jobs, high-risk jobs, poorer insurance, slower diagnosis, lesser quality care. That shaves years off of their life. You multiply that by everyone in the public school system, it adds up to millions of years of life lost. This is a crisis in America right now, a crisis in America. So everybody out there saying, oh my God, don't shut down this program, don't shut down the Department of Education. Let them continue to not do their job, continue to kick the can down the road, continue to let children not get educated, continue to slide down the ladder. Don't you let it happen. That's the real story, and we need to be raising hell about it until something is done. What needs to be done? We need to have year-round school. We need to have teachers that are qualified to teach them what they're doing. In the last year, they've hired 400,000 teachers that aren't even certified. Why? Because there's a teacher shortage. Why? Because we're not paying them enough. They're getting 19% less money than people in the private sector that have the same education. This isn't the fault of the teachers. It's not their fault. The teachers' unions need to butt out and let these folks make their own way. We need to pay them more. For all the money that's being wasted, take that money and pay it to the teachers. Give them the resources they need. Support them so they feel safe when they go to school. They get attacked by students and nobody steps up to help them and support them. We need to pay them more, protect them better, and give them the attention they need to do the job to take care of our number one assets, and those are our children, our grandchildren, our young people that are the future of this nation. That's the real story. I'm Dr. Phil.